Today, we uncover the shocking truth about Costco UK. There was a time, not that long ago really, when getting a Costco card felt like being handed a golden ticket. You remember it. Someone at work, or your neighbor, or your uncle who ran his own little building firm would casually mention they had a Costco card, and you'd feel this little pang of envy. It was a badge. It meant you were in on something the rest of Britain wasn't quite allowed to have. Back then, you could roll into the car park on a Saturday morning and just glide into a space near the front. You'd wander the aisles at your own pace, actually read the labels, actually think about what you were buying, because there wasn't a queue of trolleys stacked up behind you like a motorway pile-up. Petrol felt like an actual bargain, not just a slightly smaller sting. And if you didn't qualify for a proper membership, there was a quiet little back door everyone whispered about, an online-only membership for £15 a year, no questions asked. That was the good old days. And whether you remember them fondly, or you've simply forgotten just how good we had it, we're about to remind you, because most of that has quietly slipped away, and Costco is banking on you not noticing. Think about your very first visit properly, if you can remember that far back. Someone probably took you along as a guest before you had your own card, walked you through the doors like they were showing off a secret. You'd have felt a bit overwhelmed by the sheer size of the place, genuinely excited by things you didn't even need, and you'd have left thinking that was actually a proper day out. A trip to Costco used to be an event, not just another chore squeezed in between the school run and getting the tea on. That feeling has quietly been engineered out of the experience, and most people haven't noticed it happening because it happens so gradually. Here's a taste of what's changed. That £15 backdoor membership everyone still talks about online, the one half of Britain still thinks is real, it's gone. It's £42 now, the same as walking through the actual doors, and barely anybody's clocked it. There's also a rule doing the rounds among shoppers that used to be called the £200 rule. The idea that you couldn't leave Costco for under £200 no matter how short your list was. Well, shoppers in 2026 are calling it something else now. They're calling it the £400 rule. And once you understand exactly how that happens, you'll never walk in with just a shopping list again without a plan. So we've researched and gone through all the latest information about Costco UK, and we'll expose the 10 things you must know before you set foot in a Costco again. Then we'll tell you the handful of things that are actually still worth your membership fee. Before we get into it, we need to ask you for something, and it genuinely matters more than you'd think. If you hit that hype button on this video, it does something most people don't fully understand. It tells the platform that real people like you, actually cared enough about this to want more people to see it. Every single hype and every like pushes this video in front of more shoppers who have absolutely no idea their membership fee has quietly become worse value, while the queues have quietly become worse than ever. We're not a massive corporation with a marketing budget. We're relying entirely on you to get this information into the hands of people who are being kept in the dark. Every time one of these videos gets pushed out to more people, it puts a tiny bit of pressure back on these companies. It tells them that shoppers are watching, that shoppers are checking receipts, that shoppers aren't just going to keep quietly accepting whatever gets put in front of them. That pressure is the only thing that's ever made any of these companies actually change their behavior. So please, before you carry on watching, hit that hype button and give this a like. You're not just supporting a channel, you're helping every single person who watches this after you walk in better prepared than you were. And let's get into it. Number 10. The £400 rule. Shoppers all over Britain have started noticing the same thing happening to them, and it isn't a coincidence. You go in for one thing, maybe just a bag of nappies or a bit of washing powder, and you leave with a trolley that costs more than your weekly food shop, sometimes double it. This isn't you being careless. Costco's entire warehouse is built around a retail principle called the treasure hunt. Essential items like your bread, your milk, your bin bags, they get moved around the warehouse every few weeks, on purpose, so you're forced to walk past everything else to find them. There are no aisle signs guiding you either, so you're essentially wandering blind through a maze that's deliberately designed to put a giant inflatable hot tub, a pallet of protein bars, and a year's supply of maple syrup directly in your path. Shoppers describe it themselves: walking in for one small thing and somehow ending up loading a 16-drawer tool chest into their car. Psychologists call this a hunter-gatherer response. Your brain, faced with an enormous warehouse full of unexpected things, switches into a completely different mode of decision-making than it uses in a normal supermarket aisle. You stop asking whether you need something and start asking whether you might regret not getting it while it's in front of you. And because everything comes in bulk sizes, the actual total on your receipt climbs far faster than it feels like it should. What used to be a £200 trolley of temptation has genuinely become closer to £400 for plenty of families. And it's not because prices alone have gone up. It's because the layout is working exactly as intended. Number 9. The membership gate isn't what you think. Most people in Britain still believe Costco is genuinely exclusive, that you need to be a nurse, a teacher, a civil servant, or the owner of an actual registered company to even get through the doors. That belief is doing a lot of work for Costco because it makes membership feel special, and it stops millions of people from ever bothering to check whether they'd actually qualify. Here's the truth. If you're a sole trader, meaning you've simply registered yourself as self-employed with no company, no premises, no staff, nothing more than a bit of paperwork, you can walk into a warehouse with a form of identification, a bank card for that sole trader activity, and a single invoice from any purchase you've made for that work, and you can walk out with a business membership. People online describe doing exactly this in a matter of minutes, telling staff they host events or sell things occasionally and getting signed up on the spot. On top of that, there's a route almost nobody knows about. If you're a member of the AA, the RAC, or the National Trust, you can apply for a full warehouse membership at certain locations, including Birmingham, Sheffield, and Cardiff, completely bypassing the professional qualification list entirely. This was flagged publicly by consumer champion Martin Lewis back in December of 2024, and it's still barely known. The gate that makes Costco feel like some kind of exclusive club is genuinely far weaker than the image they present. And the eligibility criteria have widened so much since the pandemic that longtime members are openly saying the exclusivity that used to be the whole point of joining has basically disappeared. None of that is against the rules Costco itself has written down. It's simply that the rules were never as strict as most of Britain assumed, and Costco has never gone out of its way to correct that assumption, because the illusion of exclusivity is genuinely good for business. Number 8. The secret codes hidden on every price tag. Every single price tag in a Costco warehouse is quietly telling you something, and almost nobody in Britain has ever been taught how to read it. Look at the top right corner of any tag. If there's a small asterisk sitting there, that item is being discontinued. It will not be reordered once the current stock is gone. So, if you want it, that's your only chance. Now look at the price itself. If it ends in 97 pence, that's not a random number, that's a manual markdown applied by a manager at that specific warehouse, and it's usually the lowest that item will ever be priced before it disappears from sale entirely. If you ever see both together, an asterisk and a price ending in 97 pence, that's about as close to a final clearance signal as Costco gives you. There's no restock coming and no lower price waiting. If a price ends in 49 or 79 pence instead, that's a temporary manufacturer-funded promotion worth grabbing now, but it will return to its normal price eventually. And if it simply ends in 99 pence, that's just the standard ordinary price, nothing special happening at all. Almost every shopper walks straight past this information every single visit, reading a map with half the legend torn off. Staff on the shop floor won't volunteer this information either. It isn't printed on a sign anywhere in the warehouse, and it isn't mentioned when you sign up for your card. It's the sort of thing that gets passed from one savvy shopper to another, quietly, the way genuinely useful information tends to travel when a company has no interest in advertising it themselves. Number 7. The £15 membership that quietly disappeared. For years, one of the most passed around pieces of advice among British shoppers was that if you didn't qualify for a proper Costco membership, there was a workaround. An online-only membership, no professional criteria, no business registration needed, just £15 a year, and you could shop the full catalogue on the website with home delivery at member pricing. It was treated almost like common knowledge on money-saving forums. Well, that loophole is dead. Costco quietly raised the price of that online-only membership to £42, exactly the same as a full warehouse membership. And plenty of shoppers are still finding this out the hard way, months and sometimes years after the change actually happened. People are still repeating the £15 figure in videos and comment sections right now, in 2026, completely unaware it stopped being true. If you're paying £42 purely to access the website with no ability to actually walk into a warehouse, you need to think very carefully about whether that's worth it. Especially once you consider that online prices are typically 10 to 15% higher than in-store prices for the exact same products, purely to cover the cost of delivery. Number 6. It isn't what it used to be. Ask anyone who's held a Costco card for 10, 20, even 30 years, and you'll hear the exact same complaint over and over again. It has become almost impossible to enjoy a normal, relaxed shop there anymore. Long-term members describe warehouses that used to be peaceful on a weekday evening now being just as packed as a weekend used to be. Car parks overflow onto the surrounding roads, till queues stretch the entire length of the store. People who've been shopping there since the store first opened in their town are cancelling their membership entirely, not because the products got worse, but because the experience of actually going has become something they dread. The reason is simple enough. Since the pandemic, the eligibility rules widened dramatically, and Costco has been actively marketing memberships in town centers well outside the usual radius of their warehouses to keep the growth going. More members were let in without a single new warehouse being built to handle the extra footfall. The result is a shopping experience that shoppers themselves describe as feeling like a completely different, far more chaotic place than it was even 3 or 4 years ago. If you're still picturing the calm, half-empty warehouse from a decade ago, that version of Costco has largely gone. If you do still want something close to that old experience, the timing matters more than almost anything else. The first weekend of the month, the run-up to Christmas, half-term weeks and anything close to a bank holiday are consistently the worst possible times to go, according to members who've been tracking this for years. A weekday evening or the last hour before closing is about as close as you'll get in 2026 to the Costco that used to exist every single day. Number 5. The price trick built into every non-food tag. Walk into any ordinary British supermarket and the price on the shelf is by law the price you pay. Walk into Costco and that isn't always true, because Costco is legally permitted to operate partly as a trade outlet. It's allowed to display prices excluding VAT on many non-food and electrical items, with the smaller, true VAT inclusive price printed underneath in far less prominent lettering. That means the big bold number that catches your eye first isn't actually what gets charged to your card. On a television, for example, a headline price can look 20% lower than what you'll actually pay once VAT is added at the till. This mostly doesn't affect your weekly food shop, since most food in Britain is 0 rated for VAT anyway, but on electronics, appliances and household goods, it genuinely changes whether something is actually a good deal or not. Some shoppers insist Costco displays both prices clearly enough and there's nothing to complain about. Others feel the smaller print is deliberately designed to be skimmed past. Either way, the habit worth building is simple. See the big price, mentally add a fifth on top for anything that isn't food, and only then decide if it's actually the bargain it appears to be. Number 4. The mystery of the dead zone solved. Almost every single Costco shopper in Britain has experienced this at some point. You walk in, try to check a price on your phone, or send a quick text, and there's simply nothing there. No signal, no data, sometimes not even a working Wi-Fi connection, despite Costco having one available. For years, shoppers have quietly wondered whether this is deliberate, a way of stopping people comparing prices with other shops while they're standing in the aisle. Here's what's actually going on. These warehouses are enormous steel-framed buildings, and a large metal structure like that behaves almost exactly like what's known as a Faraday cage, a shape that naturally blocks and scatters radio signals passing through it. It's the same reason signal drops in certain car parks, certain trains, and certain other large metal buildings entirely unrelated to Costco. On top of that, plenty of these warehouses sit on industrial estates with patchy coverage to begin with, which only makes the problem worse. It's also worth pointing out that deliberately jamming mobile signal is against the law in this country under telecommunications legislation. So even if it were tempting for a retailer to want to stop you comparing prices, actually doing it would be an entirely different matter. The far more boring, far more believable explanation is that it's simply physics. It's a good reminder, honestly, that not every frustrating thing about a big shop is a deliberate decision made in a boardroom somewhere. Sometimes a building is just a very large metal box, and a very large metal box does exactly what physics says it will. Number 3. It isn't cheaper, it's something else entirely. This is probably the single most repeated realization among long-term Costco shoppers, and it's worth hearing properly because it changes how you should be shopping there completely. Costco caps its markup at 14% on almost everything it sells, and 15% on its own Kirkland signature range. That's an extraordinarily tight margin compared to a typical supermarket, which might make very little on one product and a huge amount on another. But a tight margin on a premium product doesn't automatically mean a cheap product. Costco's own guiding principle has always been quality first, lowest possible price second. That means plenty of items genuinely aren't cheaper than a supermarket at all. They're simply a noticeably better version of the product for a similar amount of money. This is exactly why the Kirkland signature range is worth a proper look rather than a dismissive glance. Under British law, the actual manufacturer has to be listed somewhere on the packaging, so you can genuinely check this for yourself. Turn a pack of Kirkland batteries over, and you'll find they're made by Duracell. Their tinfoil comes from Reynolds, the very same company behind Reynolds Wrap. It isn't some unnamed budget alternative sitting quietly on the shelf. It's frequently the exact same product from the exact same factory, wearing different packaging and carrying a noticeably smaller price tag. Kitchen roll and tinfoil that lasts for years rather than months. Cheese that's priced by the kilo and works out cheaper in bulk, but only if you've got the freezer space to store it. Meanwhile, fresh produce gets far more mixed reviews, with plenty of shoppers across different regions describing fruit that spoils within days, and eggs that come from caged hens despite the premium feel of the shop around them. The honest way to think about a Costco visit isn't whether it's the cheapest place in town, because for a huge number of products, it simply isn't. It's whether you're getting meaningfully better quality for roughly the same money, and that's a very different question to be asking yourself in the aisle. Number 2. The membership maths almost nobody actually does. A standard Gold Star membership costs £42 a year. An executive membership costs £84 a year, exactly double in exchange for a 2% reward on qualifying spending. Sounds simple enough until you actually work out when upgrading makes sense. To make that extra £42 worth paying, you need to be spending somewhere around £2,100 a year at Costco, which works out to roughly £175 every single month. If you're spending less than that, you're simply paying more for a reward you'll never fully recoup. If you are spending that much or more, you're arguably leaving money on the table by staying on the basic tier. The genuinely useful bit almost nobody mentions is that the executive upgrade is fully refundable if it doesn't end up paying for itself by the time your membership comes up for renewal. So there's very little actual risk in testing it for a year if you're close to that spending threshold, but most people never sit down and do this maths at all. They upgrade because £84 sounds like it must be worth it, or they stay on the basic tier out of habit without ever checking which side of that £2,100 line their actual spending falls on. Put it in real terms, a family spending around £40 a week at Costco is sitting at roughly £2,080 a year, right on the edge of that break-even line. Nudge that up to £50 a week, and you're comfortably past it, and the executive upgrade genuinely starts putting money back in your pocket rather than simply costing you more for the sake of a shinier card. Number 1. The Tire Center Truth. Tucked away in most Costco warehouses is a section a lot of members walk straight past without a second glance, assuming it's some kind of trade-only service they're not entitled to use. The Tire Center is genuinely open to any member, and professional fitting is included as standard whenever you buy a set of tires there, which is worth factoring into any price comparison against a standalone garage. Beyond that basic fact, you need to be careful because plenty of the claims floating around online about this section simply don't hold up. Several people who've actually worked in or regularly used Costco's tyre bays in Britain have directly disputed claims of free puncture repairs and free rotations for life, describing charges for exactly those services when they've tried to use them. So treat any promise of endless free extras with real skepticism. And always ask the specific warehouse you're visiting exactly what's included with your purchase before you commit to buying a full set there, because it genuinely seems to vary. What is worth doing is comparing the full, all-in price, fitting included, against a like-for-like quote from a standalone tyre garage, rather than assuming Costco is automatically the cheaper option simply because of the membership fee you're already paying. One tip that does hold up, shared by members who've actually used it, is worth knowing if a tyre promotion requires buying a full set of 4, but you only need 2. Costco will often hold the remaining pair against your membership for whenever you need them later, rather than forcing you to buy or take all 4 at once. It's a small thing, but it's the kind of detail that only comes from people who've actually stood at that counter and asked. So that's the 10 things worth knowing before your next visit. Now let's talk about the side of Costco that's actually still worth your membership fee, because despite everything we've just gone through, there are a handful of things here that genuinely hold up. First, the satisfaction guarantee is about as strong as retail gets in this country. Costco will refund almost anything you're unhappy with, no standard time limit, and no receipt required because every single purchase is automatically logged against your membership card the moment you buy it. Electronics carry a 90-day window rather than an open-ended one, but everything else is remarkably flexible. Even more strikingly, the membership fee itself is fully refundable at any point in the year if you decide it wasn't worth it, no proportional deduction, no admin charge, the whole amount back. Think about what that actually means for a moment. You could join today, use every single thing we've talked about in this video, claim a price adjustment, fill up at the pump, work your way through the food court, and then walk up to that desk in 11 months and decide it genuinely wasn't for you, and still leave with every penny back in your account. There aren't many memberships left in this country that will let you do that. Second, there's a 30-day price adjustment policy that plenty of members have never once used. If something you bought drops in price within 30 days of your purchase, you can go to the membership desk, give your membership number, and get the difference refunded without needing to have kept your receipt. Just be aware that a few members have reported this being enforced inconsistently depending on the branch and the staff member on duty, so it's always worth asking politely rather than assuming it'll be automatic. Third, the fuel station remains one of the genuinely strong reasons to keep a membership if you drive regularly. It's still typically cheaper than the average price nearby, although that gap has narrowed noticeably in the past year or so compared to the bigger savings drivers used to see, so it's worth checking the difference for yourself rather than assuming it's always a dramatic saving. Executive members also get a small, quietly useful perk here too, an earlier entry window at some warehouses before Gold Star members are let through the doors, which on a busy Saturday morning can be worth more than the 2% reward ever will be. Fourth, there's a small handful of products that come up again and again from members as things genuinely worth the trip on their own. They're tinfoil and cling film, which regularly gets described as lasting for years in a single household. Big blocks of cheese that work out noticeably cheaper than the same weight from a supermarket. The famous £1.50 hot dog and drink combination at the food court, which has remained essentially unchanged in price for years. And the rotisserie chicken, which consistently gets praised for its size and quality relative to what it costs. Members also consistently point to the block cheese, the Kirkland olive oil, and a good number of the store cupboard basics, the sort of things you buy once and don't think about again for months, as exactly the kind of purchase that makes the membership fee feel justified, even on the weeks when everything else about the visit tests your patience. None of this makes Costco a villain, and it was never really about that. It's a business, and every business is going to lean into whatever quietly works in its favor unless shoppers push back on it. The point of going through all of this isn't to put you off, it's to make sure that when you do walk through those doors, you're the one making the decisions in there, not the layout, not the price tag. And not an assumption that's been sitting untouched since the last time this all felt simple. The honest takeaway from everything we've gone through today is this: Costco rewards a shopper who goes in with a plan and sticks to it, and quietly punishes the shopper who wanders in without one. The membership can absolutely still be worth it, but only if you understand exactly what you're paying for, exactly what's changed since the days when this all felt simpler, and exactly which of the old assumptions about this place simply aren't true anymore. If this video showed you even one thing about Costco you didn't already know, we'd genuinely love it if you hit that like button and the hype button before you go. Because it's the single biggest thing that helps this reach other shoppers who are still working off outdated information. And we want to hear from you too, so leave a comment telling us which food or shop we should dig into next, because your suggestions are exactly what shapes where we go from here. Until next time, stay sharp, stay savvy, and protect your plate.